Baseball season is here at last, and the excitement continues all season long at DraftKings.com, the official daily fantasy partner of Major League Baseball. Daily fantasy means no season-long commitments. Why wait until the end of the season to claim victory when you can win huge cash every day? Hurry to DraftKings.com now and enter promo code PARDON to play for free. You could win part of the $300 million in prizes being awarded this season. Enter PARDON for free entry now at DraftKings.com. That's DraftKings.com.
Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon and Tony. Wild coyotes are running loose on the streets of New York. Isn't that scary?
I'm Tony Kornheiser. No. What's scary is dropping a squirrel down your pants.
Okay, how would you know? How would you know that?
Because I had to do it in high school.
No, you're scared of every wild animal in the world.
The kids made me do it in high school. And I'll tell you this, wild coyotes in the Bronx and Brooklyn.
That's great.
That's not good.
That's
because
fun.
The next step is out on Long Island where I'm from, and I don't want to see coyotes. No, none. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, Derrick Rose goes off, the Royals are feisty, and Jim Harbaugh does something wonderful. But we begin today with the Golden State Warriors making up a 20-point deficit in the fourth quarter and a 17-point deficit with 7 minutes to play and beating New Orleans in overtime. It was a thrilling ending as Golden State steamrolled the Pelicans. But Wilbon, was this more about the Warriors rising or the Pelicans choking?
Tony, watching it live and literally just scream out loud moments, and were one after another, they choked. I mean, the Pelicans choked. I hate to say that because they're an inexperienced team. There were times they just didn't know what to do or didn't listen to their coach who did know what to do and is telling them, here's what we're going to do, like foul Steph Curry before he can break us, crush us with a three.
Right.
Tony, there were sequences like that throughout that stretch, that 7-minute stretch, where they come back from 17, and I'm on text message chains with people going, no, this is not happening, is it? Yes, it's happening. It was a choke.
Yeah, there are two things that stood out for me, and one was the amount of points Golden State scored late. They had 69 points going into the fourth quarter, which means in 17 minutes of play, they scored 54 points. That's more than 3 points a minute, Mike. That's a pace for 150 a game. Nobody scores 150. I don't care if there's no defense played. If there's 5 humans out there, nobody scores 150. And the second thing that stood out to me was Curry's game-tying shot at the end of regulation. He got hammered. Absolutely
by 2
hammered.
guys at least.
That's a 4-point play, game over. How do you not make that call? How?
Tony, I didn't want the call to be made. You're right about it. I didn't want the call because I wanted more basketball. I didn't want that game to end. That's a game you just want to keep going, Tony. And part of the problem, you mentioned the pace that the Golden State Warriors were on. Part of the problem is that the Pelicans didn't understand we don't need to shoot 21 threes. We've got a double-digit lead. We need to get the ball to Anthony Davis and let him carry us home.
Well, he missed the foul shot that hurt them a lot.
Tony, he did. But if you have to slow the game down. You have to control the pace so Curry can't.
I know that our dear friend Charles Barkley says that a jump shooting team can't win the championship.
Right.
But the only way you make up points is a jump shooting team because they get the ball off in a hurry. That's how you do it.
It was a wow. It really was, Tony. But Curry had to share the marquee last night with LeBron, who did his thing in Boston, and Derrick Rose, who in leading the Bulls past the Bucks in double OT in Milwaukee had what most of us think is his most meaningful performance since his first knee injury 3 years ago. 34 points, the most in 3 years. 48 minutes, the most in 4 years. Tony, it's great to see Rose play this way, but does it lead you to think, seriously, that the Bulls could beat the Cavaliers, who also went up 3-0?
It's an interesting question because I would have no particular confidence that the Bulls could beat the Cavaliers, if I use that word confidence. By the same token, I no longer have complete confidence that the Cavaliers can beat the Bulls. The Bulls have just moved the needle. If you look at this Bulls team right now, which was always a deep team, has added Pau Gasol, and if this is Derrick Rose, this guy who looked like the MVP one more time, then when they go in to play Cleveland, I'm not sure who's going to win that game. At this point, with what I've seen from Rose, I believe the Bulls right now, and I shouldn't say this to you because you'll salivate, I believe the Bulls right now can beat anybody if this is who he is.
Well, Tony, they have beaten everybody in the league. They're one of those teams. They beat San Antonio this year. They beat Golden State, one of only 2 losses the Warriors have at home. One of them was to the Bulls. So they've done that. The question is, how much can they sustain it as Rose finds his game? You mentioned the other day, and you got this right, I think, Tony. You felt this instinctively, that Rose was just going to say, the hell with it.
That's right.
I don't know what might happen tonight, but I'm going for this.
That's right.
I mildly agreed with you now. I fully agree with you. But, Tony, here's the problem. The Bulls, they were down 18 in a game to Milwaukee. They shouldn't be trailing Milwaukee by 18, even on the road, because it wasn't really a road game. But Derrick Rose, Tony, you're right. When he plays with that sort of abandon and that sort of daring, first of all, it inspires his teammates, who are altogether too calm otherwise. It matters, but they're not as good as Cleveland yet, Tony.
Chicago last night faced the same circumstance being down that Golden State did. The better teams won in both cases. Derrick Rose is a guy, break a bone, break your heart. But if he doesn't break a bone, and who's to say he won't, if he doesn't, they're as good as anybody in the league. They
think that, Tony.
They are. I think so,
too. They want to play from the underdog spot, too.
The Kansas City Royals were involved in yet another dust-up last night. It was their 3rd such incident in their last 6 games. And the 3rd start in a row by pitcher Yordano Ventura, where the bench is cleared. The Royals are 12-4. They lead their division by 1 game, but they lead the league in ejections by a mile. Wilbon, is it their fault or is it everybody else's fault?
Well, Tony, for a while, because they're seen such as the plucky up-and-coming team. You know, the newcomer, the team that could, the team that overcame all these sorts of deficiencies or perceived deficiencies last year to get to the World Series. You know, you want to give them the benefit of the doubt. I do. But, Tony, when it's everybody out there, when you have so many people ejected from games, and last night, I watched a lot of that. Now, I know there are people who can say that the White Sox were the antagonists in this. The White Sox don't back down from these things either. But it can't be everybody, and you're the only innocent party.
Sometime when there's smoke, there's actually smoke, okay? And if this guy, if every game that he starts ends this way, if Chris Sale in the 8th inning last night is reported to want to go in to the Kansas City dugout and get in a fight with Ventura, you know, and every time he pitches, you know what's going to happen? Lorenzo Cain is going to get drilled. That's what's going to happen.
Well, that's what's happening.
If you're in this all the time, then you got to wonder, is it the Royals because they have a chip on their shoulder because they feel they're so disrespected? You know, maybe it's them. Wasn't it Eric Hosmer last night who said, we've got to get our emotions under control? They're not under control.
Well, Tony, here's what to me is important. Look, you can do this in pro football or college football. It's a short season. If you're the Seattle Seahawks, you can live that way. You can survive. You can thrive that way in a 16-game season plus playoffs. You can't do this for 160 games spread across 7 months. It's not going to work. Because, first of all, your teammates are going to get tired of you bringing them into brawls every night.
I like this, and you like this. This is the baseball we're used to. But there's a first-year commissioner. And after a few weeks of this, he's got to call somebody up in Kansas City.
Are you going to say he's not living and breathing? Are you on the verge of that?
Not yet, because the other guy's in his 2nd year. But I would say that you have to call Kansas City and say, let's talk this out. I mean, we can't have this every night.
Can't have this all the time. That's right.
No.
Sad story, Tony, coming out of Anaheim via Sports Illustrated, which is reporting troubled slugger Josh Hamilton may never play for the Angels again. SI cites an industry source as saying Hamilton, quote, could be gone from the team in a matter of days, close quote. Hamilton, who has underperformed in 2 years with the Angels, is still owed $83 million of the $125 million he signed for in 2012. So, Tony, would the Angels actually be better off without Hamilton?
I would love to take a strong stand on this with a very definitive answer, but I don't know. I mean, I really don't know. Certainly, the numbers he's put up while he's been an Angel are not worth $25 million a year. He's played 240 games. He's got 31 homers and 123 RBI. That's one really great season, but it's not 2 great seasons. When you add on top of that a relapse, it gets people worried. It may just be that a change of scenery is best for him now. So I bet his teammates want him to play, and I'll bet they think he'll be great, but I don't know that you can know that right now.
Tony, I don't know what you can know, but here's what you could suspect when you were the Angels and you were about to make this signing. There's peril here.
Yes,
there's history here. I don't know whether they did their due diligence or not, what their investigations told them. But I'm not really feeling for the Angels. Josh Hamilton's history wasn't sort of in a teacup. I mean, we knew about so many issues. And I remember you at the time and others raising the notion of leaving one culture
and going to
where
California.
You are familiar and going to California, where you're unfamiliar and there just seems to be every temptation in Southern California in the history of the world.
I agree.
So, I'm sure that if they decide to just sort of dump him and say we're not going to pay him, that the players' union, the strongest of the sports unions, will get involved. But I can say, I would probably say, no, I don't want this.
I think he'll get another chance somewhere.
Somewhere else.
And not defending the Angels, but he had great years in Texas. The owner of the Angels hasn't seen that guy. The manager of the Angels hasn't seen that guy.
That's
they
right.
can't be sure that guy still exists. They can't. Fabulous Jim Harbaugh sent out a tweet yesterday saying, quote, as a collegial gesture, we invite coaches from every college to be involved in our football camp. #compete. #exposure you, unquote. Clearly, this is a shot at Nick Saban, your boy, who had complained about a Big Ten advantage in going to those satellite camps across the South. Harbaugh further invited coaches who can't go to satellite camps like Saban to be his keynote speaker. Wilbon, if you were Nick Saban, would you go and speak at Michigan?
If I was Nick Saban, of course, I would go speak wherever the Michigan coaches are. But the thing is, see, I think I have some sense of humor, while the actual Nick Saban doesn't seem to have an ounce of humor in his body anywhere, Tony. He works overtime to make sure that you think he doesn't have a sense of humor. At least Belichick, we know, in the offseason or on the rubber chicken circuit, Belichick does have a sense of humor. No, he actually does. But Nick Saban, no, he doesn't get it. And I love that Harbaugh is just giving him a noogie. I just love that Harbaugh's doing that. Harbaugh's such a rascal, Tony, and it's so much fun to have him in the Big Ten.
Harbaugh is crazy, but he's likable crazy. And this is so great for college football. Do you remember when he got that job at Stanford, he went right after Pete Carroll, the #1 guy at USC. When he got to the NFL, he went right after Pete Carroll in Seattle. He's going right after the big guy on the block, and that's Nick Saban. And within a year, he'll go right after Urban Meyer. And college football can thank Jed York making a stupid decision, getting rid of Jim Harbaugh, because the buzz around Michigan is enormous. College football is buoyed by Jim Harbaugh. He hasn't coached a game.
He hasn't, and he's got to win. But I certainly think that Jim Harbaugh will win. I think that the difference he'll make at this level will be enormous. But yes, if you're asking me, do I like him just taking his hand and giving a little slap to the coach at Alabama? The answer is, yeah.
Saban's got to take the opportunity and make the speech. Let's take a break. But coming up, Billy Donovan is rumored to be heading to the NBA. Are any other college coaches ready to make that leap? And we will ask Brian Windhorst
later. Tony Romo, and I'm sitting right here in Big D, Tony, he makes a Super Bowl guarantee.
Well, he made it to be fair, he made it in Dallas. It's not like he made it in Columbus, Ohio.
Baseball season is here at last, and the excitement continues all season long at DraftKings.com, the official daily fantasy partner of Major League Baseball. Daily fantasy means no season-long commitments. Why wait until the end of the season to claim victory when you can win huge cash every day? Hurry to DraftKings.com now and enter promo code PARDON to play for free. You could win part of the $300 million in prizes being awarded this season. Enter PARDON for free entry now at DraftKings.com. That's DraftKings.com.
Brian Windhorst is one of our favorite guests, so it is a mystery why Wilbon refuses to sit on the same set with him.
I will not do it.
We welcome Brian to the studio. We'll start with this, the Bulls and the Cavs. Remember that Wilbon loves the Bulls. How do you like and assess the Bulls' chances?
Here's my problem. The Bulls have to beat the Cavs in Cleveland at least once. Cavs have been unbeatable at home basically since the All-Star break. Secondly, this is the most amazing LeBron James stat, I think, going, that nobody knows about. After they won last night in Boston, it's 19 consecutive series where he's won a road game. Davies was Cavs, Heat, Cavs career. 19 in a row. So you got to figure the Cavs are going to win a game in Chicago. So now I got to figure, how are the Bulls going to overcome that streak of 19 in a row? And how are they going to win a game in Cleveland, which they have to do? And I just can't see it coming. That said, I'm so excited for this series. It's in my head. It's already there. The two series are already gone. Jimmy Butler and Derrick Rose are averaging 51 points. It's going to put enormous pressure on the Cavs' perimeter defense, which is not great. Isaiah Thomas has had some success against them. And they're big men, especially if Nikola Mirotic is going to be okay. That puts pressure on Kevin Love. So the Cavs have not been tested defensively, really, at this level before. And I think the Bulls are good enough offensively now to give them a test. But I'm not going to predict the Bulls are going to win. I do think it could be a great series.
Brian, let's go to LeBron and Kevin Love, a constant theme for you all year covering this team as much as you do. LeBron said last night he's always supported Kevin Love, which made me laugh out loud, to which you say what?
I say I'm never going to listen to what you say about your teammate after you just had a big win. I want to see how they react to each other when they have a loss. I'm never going to evaluate this relationship in good times. I want to see how they deal with adversity. And this Cavs season, as great as it's been, they haven't had any adversity since early January. Boy, did they have a lot before that. But since then, they haven't. And so, obviously, LeBron has taken pot shots at Kevin Love throughout the season. Kevin has taken some pot shots back at LeBron. Last night, though, they were having so much fun playing together. Love hitting three.
Lovey-dovey.
Kevin Love is skipping up and down the sideline. LeBron is hugging him, and everything's wonderful. I want to see how they play when they're down 7 points in the last 5 minutes of a game they have to win. I want to see how they react when they fall down in a series or they finally lose a home game. That is where I will judge how strong their bonds are.
You know, if Kevin Love skips, you better watch out for Jose Batista, as I referenced a show on this show a couple of days ago. What is the Thunder going to do?
It's a great job. It really, really is a great job.
Really?
I think so, because I know that, we don't have certainty with Durant, but you're going to have Durant. You're going to have Westbrook. You're going to have Ibaka back. You're going to have probably Enes Kanter re-signed. This is going to be the deepest Thunder team since they went to the finals. And so everybody wants this job. There are people who have jobs who want this job. There's probably people trying to get to Sam Presti to throw their hat into the ring. And I think that the Thunder are they're under some pressure here because on one hand, they can't really kowtow to what Durant wants. On the other hand, when they make this hire, they have to think about what Durant's going to do. So it's a tough call for them, but they have the best position they could ever be in. They don't have to worry about somebody telling them no. I'll bet whoever they offer that job to first is going to say yes, and that's not always the case in a small market.
That leads us to Billy Donovan, Brian. I mean, do you believe the Billy Donovan reports and subsequent to that, are there other college coaches that you think right now are both ready to make that leap and somebody's ready in the NBA to hire him?
Right, well, it's a copycat league. We know that. And Brad Stevens has been so successful that I think after years of there being a stigma against college coaches, I think there's 4 college coaches right now that are getting phone calls and consideration from the NBA. One is Billy Donovan, obviously. 2, Bill Self at Kansas. The Cavs actually quietly gave feelers to him and offered him sort of informally their job last year. He could have been the Cavs coach if he wanted. Fred Hoiberg at Iowa State, definitely a guy who coaches think so highly of and GMs think so highly of, and then Kevin Ollie. What I think is interesting about Billy Donovan, first off, he has a relationship with Sam Presti going back years. They quietly have become very close. Sam has hired several of Billy's former assistants for roles in the Thunder organization, and we haven't heard Billy say a word. Kevin Ollie's come out and said, I'm not really interested. It sounds like to me like Kevin Ollie wants to make it look like he didn't finish second or third. Billy hasn't said anything. To me, I think it's Billy's job to turn down. This is what he's been waiting for. All these jobs that have come up that have been sort of offered to him or he's been mentioned, this is the job that you leave floor to floor. And not to mention that the Gators aren't looking so good right now. I think this is the time. And not only that, he's going to get $6 million or so. He's making $4 million at Florida from a monetary standpoint. He's probably going to get a $30 to $35 million contract. This is the job Billy Donovan's been waiting for, and I think he's the guy the Thunder want.
Thank you so much for joining us, Brian, though I think Oklahoma City is a ghost town without those guys. Let's take one last break, but still to come, Tim Duncan turns 39 tomorrow. How is he still playing at this level?
Unbelievable. And will the Yankees end the Mets winning streak this weekend? I-95 talk just for Tony next. Because, Brian, that's enough Oklahoma City. Small people, small town. He doesn't like that. He doesn't like that at all.
ESPN Radio.
With the action on the court, the diamond, or the gridiron.
Comes alive.
The NBA.
The San Antonio Spurs are the world champions.
Major League Baseball.
San Francisco Giants are the champions of the baseball world.
A new college College Football Playoff.
College Football Playoff national champions, the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Your home for the best in sports play-by-play.
ESPN Radio.
Happy time, people. Happy 39th birthday tomorrow, Tim Duncan. Owing to the combination of his age in the tourist section of San Antonio, Duncan is now being called Old Man Riverwalk. Tonight will be his last game as a 38-year-old. In his next to last game, he went 44 minutes, had 28 points and 11 rebounds, carrying the offensive load with Parker and Ginobili out.
Tony, he really has to now because Ginobili's like he was 2 years ago, not effective. Parker's hurt, his Achilles. Duncan's even better than Kareem at an old age, isn't he?
He's close. Not so happy anniversary, Meta World Peace. On this day 3 years ago, the NBA suspended you 7 games for your violent elbow to the head of James Harden. Mr. Peace is no longer working in the NBA. Recently played in China, now playing in Italy, where he has released a rap song.
Doesn't it seem like that whole thing had to be like 6 years ago? I can't believe it was that little time. Harden in an OKC uniform, Artest in a Lakers game that matters.
Happy trails to a 3-1 series lead for the Red Wings. The Wings were 5.5 minutes away from beating the Lightning in Detroit, but the Nings scored twice in 77 seconds to tie it, and then went on to win 2:25 into overtime. So in the course of 7 minutes, 51 seconds of game time, the Red Wings went from a 2-0 lead to a loss. The Wing-Nings series now tied at 2-2 heading back to Tampa.
Tony, it was 2-0. I turned that game away just preparing for, Detroit to sort of celebrate and move on to the next game. And it's an overtime. Unbelievable the Red Wings choked that away.
No errors because we're smooth like that. Quick to the big finish. Greg Hardy reportedly had a verbal altercation with a Cowboys teammate already. Your thoughts?
This is not going to work out, is it? It really. Tiger's going to play in the TPC in 2 weeks. Is that big news?
People expected that. Big news is if he wins. Tony Romo told the luncheon crowd in Dallas, the Cowboys are going to win the Super Bowl next year. Okay by you?
Those things never work out well. Mets, Yanks, big series in the Bronx tonight, Tony. Big deal, little deal, no deal.
Big deal in New York where they're first-place teams, no deal anywhere else. Last one, your boy John Lester gets another shot at his first win tonight. Does he get it?
In Cincinnati, Tony, I think he does. Come break a 2-game losing streak.
We're out of time. We'll try and do better the next time, and I'm Tony Kornheiser.
I'm Mike Wilbon. Have a great weekend, knuckleheads. Check out the PTI podcast on iTunes. It's a ball night, Tony, right here in Dallas.
I'm going to go see David Remnick at the New Yorker party. See you in a little bit, David.
PTI.